You're listening to the Love Your Neighbor podcast.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the Links podcast. It's so good to have you with us. I also want to thank Jessica and Michael Gross and Kingbird Coffee for sponsoring this season of the Links podcast. We can't do it without our sponsors. It's so good to have you as we're building community one conversation at a time. And today we get the privilege of having a conversation with Michael. Do not leave me a voicemail, Gross. Michael, it's so good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us on the Love Your Neighbor podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John.
I just think it's interesting. We're talking about houses. We were talking about your house before we started recording. Like, yep. You're getting the call, or like there's people calling you. What do I do with the downspouts? And there's so many decisions to make when you're building a house, isn't there?
There's so many, just little tiny things from, do we put a shelf here? Do we not put? What do we put here? Gutters coming down. Oh, this got changed. Yeah, it's so many little details. And that's the one thing I like about being a real estate agent and being able to build my own house is I'm taking pieces from everybody else that I've helped over the years and kind of putting them into my dream home. Yeah, so kind of exciting.
So you actually have the keys to your own dream home. Is that right?
That's exactly it. Yep. Another day in paradise.
That's right. Another day in paradise. And it's bittersweet though for me, Mike, because this new house you're building isn't as close as we used to be. Really close. Like we were on the same street.
Yeah, we were literally like right down the street from each other. And yeah, I don't know. It just, with everything going on and our family growing, our little boys were growing up and they wanted their own rooms and we couldn't give them their own room. So we decided to build.
I remember that you're one of the first people that we met when we moved to Brandon. And I remember just being in awe of all of the different things you had in the backyard. It was like a wonderland of,
yes.
Are you going to be able to recreate some of that at
we
the
are.
New place?
Yeah. Before we had an above ground pool, now we're doing an in-ground pool behind there. But coming from Arizona, a little bit about my background is my mom committed suicide when I was 10. My dad was in the Air Force. We traveled everywhere. So every 4 years, I was finding a new home, in a sense, sometimes every 2 years. And so turned to comedy. So a lot of my life is jokes and everything else. I love my dad jokes, huge dad jokes. And so when my dad decided he was going to retire and my mom passed away, my dad shipped us up here to South Dakota. And so I lived with my grandparents and, kind of moved around quite a bit, did different things. And so when I moved to Brandon, I felt it was home. Yeah. It was just home. It was the place we wanted to be. So when we moved to the neighborhood that you're talking about, we were one of the first people in that neighborhood. There was hardly anything out there. We had a house and then like 4 lots empty. And so people started moving in. We're like, this is so exciting. So we feel like we're doing it all over again in a sense. But I do miss the creek behind there. I miss being able to jump up in the Big Sioux Wreck, and that community felt so small for being in Brandon because it was only one entrance into the community, and I'm going to miss that.
Yeah. Well, we did get that. Since you moved, they've opened up that second exit entrance now. So,
yes.
What we used to have a nice trees and an old barn, and now that's gone and it's a road and it's just a big dirt field back there now.
And twin homes soon
to be twin homes, right? So but we love where we live. It's a great neighborhood. We've got great neighbors. And so we're missing you, man. I was talking with another neighbor of yours that had moved out. And so but that's kind of your business. You're in the real estate business. Talk to those of us from Brandon that might be either have a house in Brandon or looking for a house in Brandon or looking for a different house in Brandon. What's the latest? What are tips for us being homeowners in Brandon?
I think the one thing I hear constantly is prices are just insane. They are, but people go, well, if I sell, I got to buy at a high rate. Well, yeah, but you're going to sell at a high rate. So really it balances out. So whether you go 2 years ago and you sold when you called it lower to how it is now, you're really making the same off your house and selling it for more. I know it doesn't seem like it, but you're getting a better value for your sale and you're getting a better value for the house that you're buying. So it really doesn't make a difference. I think if you're looking at a different home, or you want to upgrade, downgrade, side grade, move to a different neighborhood, you got to do what's best for you, and for your investment. So
what would you say to someone that would say, what a realtor doesn't really help me, what I can do it myself? I mean, what would you say to someone like, maybe one of our listeners is one of those people that says, I can keep that, 3% in my own pocket.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you say to someone? How would you sell the service that you provide?
I can give you a handful of names of people that have tried selling on their own. And then it comes down to just little things that I always come down, and I know it sounds horrible, but we don't have emotions at time. As a real estate agent, we do not have any emotions. We're here to get the transaction from point A to point B, and that's basically it. We're going to help with the home inspection. We're going to help with all the little details that you do not realize that go into selling a home. There's a ton of people that say, oh, I can sell this myself. The market's so crazy. And then they try and they get 7,000 phone calls of people, hey, will you rent your house? Will you do this? Will you do contract for deed? Will you? And they go, oh my gosh, I don't want to answer the phone. My phone on my voicemail, if you ever call me, and I encourage people to call my phone just to do it. And I know you have, my voicemail says, do not leave me a message. Don't leave me a message. I'm 6 calls behind always, and so just text me, because when I'm on the phone with somebody else, I can respond to your thing. And so that's what I do. I do a lot of that middle stuff. Plus I have trailers you can borrow. I have tools you can borrow. I mean, maybe you're a first-time home buyer and you're getting into a new house and you don't have a lawnmower yet. I have a lawnmower you can borrow. I have a weed eater you can borrow. I have all this different equipment that you can borrow free of charge. Not only that, but I know my paperwork. I'm one of the top real estate agents right now in South Dakota, in Sioux Falls, that are first-time homebuyer educators. So I teach for Lutheran Social Services. I teach for Sioux Empire Housing. So I wrote a book.
Oh, you did?
In my spare time. Yeah. I wrote a book on buying and selling a home. So that way, whenever somebody buys or sells with me, I give them one of my books, and it takes you through the pros and cons, different things in there. Like one of my favorites is, when you're buying a home, does anybody need to approve of your new home? And I know that sounds funny, but I have parents all the time when kids are buying houses, and then they come in and they look and they go, I don't want you to buy this home. And they're like, but why? And you sit there and try to explain to the parents, look, their budget is X amount. They're not buying a $500,000, $600,000 home. They're buying a first-time home buyer. They're a starter home. What did you buy when you first started? And then you got to try to talk that parent off the ledge. So kind of exciting stuff all the time.
Yeah. So I think about, in our family, we've bought 2 homes, and those are big life moments. And so you're dealing with multiple life moments all the time.
Financial. Yeah.
How do you handle the tension or the stress of that? I mean, do you have a place where you can go, or a thing that you do to just kind of release all that stress? And
so my favorite place, and the reason why even our new house, we're going to have a pool, is I'm a big rescue diver, a scuba diver. And so I will throw a tank on and I go to the bottom of the pool and I will lay down there for 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, until I run out of air, basically. And I just lay at the bottom of the pool. Nobody can bother you. Nobody can do things. My kids are doing cannonballs and stuff into the pool. Sure. But you just lay down there and it's just quiet. It's just the perfect relaxation spot for me.
So it just it's a total body immersion experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that you did that, but I didn't know that you used it for that purpose. Okay.
That's my meditation. Awesome. That's my moment of Zen right there.
Cool. Well, I've always marveled at just your ability to, just have a lot of things going at the same time. Tell us the story. You're now added to your real estate business and all the other things that you're doing. Now you've added a coffee shop minority owner, right? Your wife has made this.
My wife is the owner. So the story is I was talking to Billy and Ellison that owned Kingbird Coffee, and they own the strip mall there. And me and Billy were sitting around and we figured, me, him, Steven, that owns the gun store right down the road, we sit around and we solve all the world problems, every morning with a cup of coffee at Kingbird. And one morning I was joking around with him about, as much as I spend here, I should just buy this place. He's like, well, why don't you? And so I shot him an offer. He shot me an offer. We kind of went back and forth. we kind of let it rest for, a couple weeks. And we were actually down in Mexico with some friends on vacation in January. And Billy shot me a message saying, let's do it. I think you'd be great owning this coffee shop. I'm going to sell it to you for what you want. And I sent back, perfect, sold. And I called my attorney, I called my accountant, and I said, let's start wiring the money over to him. Let's start getting the paperwork drafted up. They shot me a message back later that day saying, you can't buy a coffee shop. And I'm like, well, why not? And he's like, you're buying a house. Don't you tell your clients, do not do anything major when you're buying a house. You tell them, don't buy a vehicle, don't buy a line of credit. And what do? You buy a coffee shop,
Well, I don't want to have that job, Mike, telling Mike Gross what to do and not do. I don't want that job. Like, you got people in your life that are counseling. So, but anyway, so they let you get away with it. How did that happen?
So what they told me is I cannot buy it. So my wife bought it. So I turned while we were still down in Mexico and I said, hey, guess what, guys? And they're looking at me like, what? I'm like, time to celebrate. Let's head down to the beach and celebrate. And they're like, just still looking at me funny. And I'm like, my wife just bought a coffee shop. And her head turned so quick of like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you know how me and Billy were joking around about the coffee shop? Well, we bought it. But because we're buying the house, I can't buy it. So you're buying the coffee shop. She was not excited at first. I don't know if she's still excited about it or not, but she owns a coffee shop and it is what it is and it's fun. And, really what it comes down to is I don't care if we make money or as long as we break even, or make a little bit. It's more I want to do something for the community. It's a really, really good place. And I think since we've taken it over February 1st, we've brought in the Flyboy Donuts. We've brought in a conference area. We're brought in video games for kids to play. We made a little swing underneath the stairs for little kids to hang out. We brought in take a book, leave a book. We've got so much more that we want to do with Kingbird to make it more, not a coffee shop, but a community center, a place where people can go and just want to hang out, So we'll be bringing lunches, poetry, all different stuff this summer. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that, I frequented Kingbird before you took over, and now I've just noticed that energy. There's an infusion of energy, and every time I go in there, there's multiple people sitting around talking.
Yes.
Sometimes you can tell that they're maybe talking business, but sometimes you can see just families hanging out, and I know that's something that is something you're passionate about, is building community. And,
yes. Yep.
And so,
Brandon, we're kind of a suburb, we're not Sioux Falls. We're not, we don't have a whole ton of stuff there. We're starting to, but we needed a place that people can feel comfortable. They can just come and hang out and be able to relax. And kids are welcome. Dogs are welcome. Anybody's welcome to be able to come in, hang out, have a cup of coffee, an Italian soda, a smoothie, whatever. It doesn't really matter. We got bagels. It doesn't really matter. We just want you to come in and be able to hang out. If you have a plan or a vision that you think you would like to see it go, talk to my staff. We'd love to be able to do whatever the community wants. We want the community to decide the path of the coffee shop. So exciting.
Well, I think that's definitely the spirit of Brandon, is we want to create those places. And that's why we do this podcast, the Love Your Neighbor podcast, because you can't love somebody, you can't unless you get to know them. Yep. And, I know this was a couple weeks ago, we're working on this Brandon wellness process, and you said, "Hey, somebody's talking here at the coffee shop." He said, he wants to talk to you, and so it was just so cool, and that relationship has grown, and I've watched really that idea that we had shared now begins to blossom because everybody knows somebody who knows somebody.
Yes. And that's the thing, is that's where connections are made. People come in and they share different plans or visions or whatever else. And you say, hey, I know somebody that would be perfect to talk to you about this. Hey, this person should talk to you. And now we're making connections because Brandon is one of those towns. So we are small, but not everybody knows everybody. And we need a place like Kingbird to be able to come and hang out and get to know people. Hey, did you know this person? No, I didn't know them. Oh, you should get to meet them. And now we're exchanging numbers. We're adding on to where our community should be and getting to know everybody.
Well, I think it's just great that Jessica allowed you to do this, Mike. This has been awesome.
I do too.
Jessica,
I don't know how she puts up with me.
Thank you. She obviously has a a huge heart and a bigger vision, I think, to see that, because
Yes.
you're always working that. What is it that you've lived here for a while,
Yep.
raising your kids in Brandon, business owner?
Yep.
What would you say? Why you could have built a house anywhere? Why did you choose to stay in Brandon? What really has kept you in Brandon?
I think it's the community. I really do. I love the way people are passionate about everything. We have such an amazing wrestling program that we wanted to give back to the wrestling program. We have so many great churches. We have so many, there's so much in Brandon that is amazing, and the community is amazing. We have little niches in different areas of town that are they have barbecue competitions. They have, all these different things that go on around Brandon that people wouldn't know. And really, I think that's the great thing about the podcast is people are getting to know different neighborhoods. We're branching out from our neighborhoods. We're getting to meet other people, and so there's different things. So one thing that I plan on doing this summer is we're going to do neighborhood, either ice cream or snow cones. And as far as my real estate business, we're going to pay for it. We're going to take it I don't know if it'll be each month, every 2 weeks, whatever it winds up being, but we're going to take an ice cream truck or a snow cone truck or something into a neighborhood and give away free ice cream or snow cones or whatever else, just to try to draw people out of their houses and get to know their neighbors. Again, love thy neighbor. That's
right.
what it's all about. So,
right. Yeah, we have a great opportunity to do that here.
Mm-hmm.
We've got great people. I know you. What did you learn from the hometown days and working with that? What did you learn from that, being a part of that?
The problem is people have a hard time volunteering. Our lives are so busy all the time. And so I'm trying to get things out. So I'm changing hometown days up. Last year I changed it up. I moved it to the fall. I moved it to Pioneer Park. This year I'm going to continue it at Pioneer Park. It's going to be in the fall. But one thing I'm working now with is different places in Brandon, basketball, different things. So instead of the Optimist Club just taking on hometown days, let's get other people involved. So maybe a church. I know me and you have had this talk too. Maybe get a church involved and they say, hey, you know what? We want to do this. Touch a truck. We started a little bit of touch a truck last year. We're going to continue that this year. Just bringing in more things for people to do, more community-based, more kid-based, family-based, things like that, because we don't really have anything. We tried Automania for a little bit.
Yeah.
That fizzled out real quick. It seems like a lot of stuff fizzles out real quick in Brandon. I think we need to get the whole community involved in one event. Event.
Right. What when you talk about it, you're talking a fall event. Is that back to school time, harvest time? In between there, do we have a date yet? Or
we don't have a date. So I'm thinking, it sounds like somewhere in August, somewhere around in there. We want to do it before school starts. We don't want to take away from any other events and stuff. So I am working on the date right now. We're trying to get everything together. Hopefully in the next few weeks, we're going to have everything hammered down, everything planned of what we're going to do.
Cool.
So you'll see lots of advertising out there about it.
Good. Well, I feel like we'll see more about it, like at Kingbird, and you do a good job of being out on those different media channels. What would you say, Mike, as we kind of wrap this up? What have you most? What would you say you've most appreciated in terms of raising your kids here? Maybe it's the schools or the friendships. What have you most appreciated about being part of the Brandon community?
I love that if you try starting something in Brandon or you do anything, everybody backs you. You get so much support. People want to see stuff. People want to keep things local in Brandon. They want that small feel, that hometown of being able to get your kids together, run through a sprinkler, the good days where you just enjoyed life. And I think that's Brandon. I think my vision of Brandon and what I've come to know of Brandon is just running through that sprinkler, hanging out with the neighbors, all the kids getting together, and just enjoying it, not being afraid, not having to. I remember many times walking out to my garage and there's kids getting a pop out of my fridge in my garage, and that just makes me smile. One, to know I'm sending them home with caffeine, and two, that we're just a friendly community. So,
you emanate that, man. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you taking time to be a part of this podcast. And Man, we're actually sponsored by Kingbird and Flyboy Donuts, and we're really excited about that. I think that as we look to build this wellness center, we want to see a space where people can come together, and we've got some great parks. We've got a great parks department, a great city government that's really said, "Hey, we want you to do this." And I'm so appreciative of your support of that and your willingness to say, "Yeah, hey, we're going to invest in this shared space."
Kingbird and Flyboy supports, that's kind of our vision, is we want to be a community-based center. So to support a community-based center that we're going to have, that our kids can be able to do things during the winter time, during the summertime, a multi-use space is exactly what Kingbird represents, exactly what Flyboy represents.
Yeah, we say that the wellness center and building a wellness center in Brandon, there's 5 reasons, right? November, December, January,
Yes.
right? I mean, those are the 5 reasons we need to.
Yeah.
Because it's tough in this part of the world to be active in the winter.
Yes, we hibernate.
Yeah, we do. Or we go to the bottom of the pool in our scuba gear.
Yeah, well, not during winter time. But yeah, that's what Flyboy, that's what Kingbird is all about. We want a community-based center. And so for us not to support a community center in Brandon is against what we believe in. It's about the community. So,
yeah, well,
excited.
we appreciate your support. We also appreciate you being willing. We've had a lot of meetings already, a lot of community meetings already at Kingbird, and you do so many things. So thanks, Mike, for joining us, and go Lynx, man.
Go Lynx!
Thank you for joining us on the Love Your Neighbor podcast. The purpose of the Love Your Neighbor podcast is to build community one conversation at a time. You can help us build that community by sharing the podcast on your social media channels and rating our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. Another way is to let us know of any neighbors who have a story. Go Lynx!